Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is February 24th, Sunday, 2019. I did that in a really weird order. But today we're going to be looking at a 2020 presidential election prediction between Beto O'Rourke and President Donald Trump. I guess you could say Congressman Beto O'Rourke, not anymore, but still was a congressman. This video I actually did about 2 months ago. I was going to do a Kamala Harris election prediction video today, but I do not really think much has changed since then and now. I do think the results of this video are going to be pretty interesting. They're going to be something that's going to be worth noting. I'm going to see a lot of comments about it for various reasons I will mention at the end, but I do think that this matchup could be pretty interesting. Beto O'Rourke, I do not think is going to run. If anything, he'll probably be Vice President Joe Biden's vice presidential candidate. And to be honest with you, that wouldn't exactly be the worst thing for him. But again, that's only if Joe Biden does in fact run. We are 5 days away from his last day. He can announce actually 4 days because it is Sunday. And we're going to find out whether or not Joe Biden is going to run. If he does not run, then Bernie Sanders is probably going to take the nomination. If Joe Biden does run, he's probably going to take the nomination. And, looking at someone like Joe Biden, I get it. Bernie Sanders, you could argue as much as you want for him. But as of right now, I mean, with the outstanding vote from people like Kamala Harris, which are going to go to Joe Biden once she drops out, or other candidates, it totals up to Biden being in the lead nationwide. But again, things can change. I'm not saying that's set in stone, but it's just something to note when going into this presidential election. Now, Beto O'Rourke is an interesting candidate. He did narrow down the Texas Senate race in 2018 to within 3 percentage points, and that was against Ted Cruz. Keep in mind, Ted Cruz overwhelmingly won here in the Republican primary and did phenomenal here his first time around. And looking at ahead to 2020, it just seems like more minority voters are going to be out to vote, but also more Republicans are going to be out to vote. They weren't exactly pressed to win in 2018 because Donald Trump wasn't exactly their favorite their favorite president at the time. They weren't exactly approving of him, and midterm elections are always times where you go against the president if you're currently disapproving of him. Bush, for example, in 2006, Obama in 2010 and 2014, Clinton, not so much in 98, but 1994, definitely. It just seems with every president during their midterm election season, they don't do too well because if they're currently disapproved of. I believe 2002 was the only exception for Republicans, and there is a clear reason behind that. But that is not what we're talking about today. Today we're going to be talking about Beto O'Rourke's chances against Donald Trump. And let's go ahead and actually characterize all of the safe Republican states. I am very happy that we now have a tilt feature. That is something that I will be using today because it's going to be needed to be used in this video. But let's go ahead and characterize all these states. I need to make Nebraska's 2nd district a toss-up, not at large. Nebraska's 2nd district as a toss-up for right now. Going over to the South, this is an area that Donald Trump, of course, is going to do very well in. Indiana, Virginia, South Carolina. Sorry, my voice is cutting out for a second. But for the safe Democratic states, we look at states like Hawaii, Washington, Oregon, California. With those 4 states alone, Beto O'Rourke is already at 78 electoral votes. And then you go up into the Northeast. It always just gets better for Democrats at this point. But then, again, it does come down to the swing states. The Democratic Party right now is at 182 electoral votes. Donald Trump is at 125. Where can either candidate make up the margin? Well, currently I have 231 toss-up electoral votes, and we know that not all of these states are going to be within 5%. Some of these states are going to be likely states for either side, and it's going to be a pretty interesting map when it comes down to it. Beto O'Rourke, I definitely think, can be able to appeal to Latino voters, especially, coming from a state like Texas. He is not Hispanic. I think that's a very common misconception. He did try to join the Hispanic caucus. He was denied on the fact that he isn't Hispanic, but again, he was able to bring out a number of minority voters in Texas in 2018, and a lot of people don't say that's accredited to him. I don't think Beto O'Rourke, if Beto O'Rourke was not the candidate in Texas in 2018, it would have been a blowout for Ted Cruz. Assuming someone like Julian Castro wouldn't run, which he already denied he was going to run. But Beto O'Rourke, he was a nobody, okay? He was a congressman from Texas. He wasn't known nationwide. He at most had a little bit of spotlight in 2017 when they first came out with a poll tying Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz both at 30%. And then it actually became a pretty real race. Then Beto O'Rourke's name was known across the United States, and for good reason. He has a lot of Obama-like tendencies, which is why a lot of people want him to run in this election season. He already said he wasn't going to run, then refuted and took that back, and then he's probably not going to run again or announce that he's going to run at all. But Senate race in 2020 in Texas could be something that he is eyeing up. If he doesn't want to lose there, he probably could jump on the Biden campaign or another campaign. But as of right now, Beto O'Rourke is probably not going to announce his run for president, but I do think that this is a very interesting video to do, considering that Beto O'Rourke is a lot like President Obama in terms of the way he campaigns, but in the areas he appeals in are a little bit different. For Donald Trump, though, I do think he is going to do pretty well. In some areas, I think in Maine's 2nd district, he's going to carry that one by a likely margin. I do think that one's going to go to the president. I mean, he won here in 2016 by a pretty large margin. There's no reason why he would lose there now. Maine's 1st district, I do think, will be in the likely column. This is the first time I'm going to use the tilt column on the, I guess, yet another political simulator, a map simulator, I guess, website. Right now, I would say Maine at large is in the tilt column because I don't think Beto O'Rourke can necessarily do as well as Hillary Clinton in the Northeast, but I don't necessarily think he's going to lose it. I do think it's going to come down to it being very close, but for right now, I would characterize Maine at large in the tilt column for the Democratic Party. Going over to states like Virginia, though, I do think Virginia is going to be a likely state for the Democrats, as it usually is for certain candidates. Colorado is definitely going to be a likely state for Beto O'Rourke, and New Mexico is definitely going to be a safe state. Going over to the state of Nevada, this is what I mean. So Beto O'Rourke, I do think, is going to be able to appeal to Latino voters and get them out to vote in droves. Looking at the state of Nevada, this state is already a Democratic state. It already went for Hillary Clinton back in 2016. It already seems like it could be poised to go to the Democrats regardless of the candidate. And right now, I do think Beto O'Rourke will definitely capitalize on the amount of Latino voters there and bring them out to vote for him. He inspired a number of voters in Texas to bring this race from safe Republican to toss-up. Okay, this is Texas, stereotyped as a Republican state. Texas itself was already close in 2016 compared to where it was in 2012. And that wasn't because of Obama. That was not because of Hillary Clinton. It was because they do not necessarily approve of the president. And then going into 2018, they disapproved of the president more. And then it came even closer. And now they disapprove of the president more than where they started off with back in 2017. And you can expect the state of Texas to be pretty close. But it's not just Texas. The same thing happened across the 3 Rust Belt states that are infamous, going over to North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Arizona, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Maine, New Hampshire, Minnesota, Iowa, Ohio, all of these states, okay, Virginia, all of these states that Donald Trump did well in, won, or narrowly lost, his approval rating has taken a huge dip since from when he started office back in early 2017. And that's not a good thing for him. Looking at this electoral map, Beto O'Rourke already has Nevada in the likely column. I haven't even touched the Rust Belt yet, and Beto O'Rourke is already almost 100 electoral votes over where the president should be. And Beto O'Rourke's home state is Texas. That is the California for the Republican Party. If they want to win any future elections, they need to hold on to Texas. Because you best believe if Texas goes to the Democrats, the Rust Belt is not going to the Republicans. If you look at states like North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Arizona, if those states are going to go to the Democratic Party, Texas is definitely going to be needed if the Republican Party wants to even have a shot at winning again. But Texas right now, we're going to come back to that one because I do think it could be pretty interesting. For Beto O'Rourke, though, I do think he's going to do pretty well across the Rust Belt. I do think Minnesota is going to go into the lean column. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Wisconsin and Michigan, I both think are going to be lean states. But Pennsylvania, I'm going to narrowly put in the tilt column. That's an area where I think that Beto O'Rourke can narrowly win in. But it's still a narrow win, but it's a win regardless. And that puts him officially over the 270 needed at 274 electoral votes. Going up into the Northeast, I do think that Beto O'Rourke can narrowly win there. Again, not as good as Hillary Clinton, but still a win regardless. Iowa and Ohio, I would characterize Iowa and Ohio both as lean states for right now because they don't necessarily approve of the president either, something that they share in common with the surrounding states. And Nebraska's 2nd district, I would still characterize as a lean state for the GOP. North Carolina, I would characterize as a lean state for the GOP. Georgia, I do think it's going to be a likely state. I don't think Beto O'Rourke's going to be able to bring out African-American voters the same way other candidates could. And Florida, I think this one's actually going to go in the tilt column. I do think that Beto O'Rourke is going to be able to bring out a number of voters, especially on the Latino side, especially after what happened in 2018, adding a couple million more voters into the voter roll because they are now allowing convicted felons to vote. That's going to be pretty interesting. The Democratic Party is probably going to gain a couple of voters there, just based off voting history. But again, that one I think could go into the tilt column for Donald Trump. I think with excited Latino turnout, Beto O'Rourke is going to do pretty well in that state. But I don't think it's enough to flip it from where it was before. In the state of Texas, this is a state that Donald Trump, I do think, is going to narrowly win. Putting it in the tilt column is a stretch for right now, only because Texas is still a Republican state at heart. Texas, I do think, is going to narrowly go to the president in the lean column, probably 1 to 2%, but not enough to go under that 1% mark. But as for Beto O'Rourke, I do think he's going to narrowly carry the state of Arizona. In the tilt column, I do think that this is going to be very, very close, but I do think Beto O'Rourke is going to carry the state of Arizona. Now, looking at this map, one thing that strikes out is Bernie Sanders did not do as good as this electoral map. Joe Biden did not do as good as this electoral map. Kamala Harris did not do as good as Beto O'Rourke did on this electoral map. But look at the margins. Okay, we have 3 states, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, and Arizona, states that are currently in the tilt Democratic column, which means that if Donald Trump was able to win in if he was able to win all 3 of them, it would be an embarrassment for the Democratic Party because they should have been winning in these areas before. Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris all share something in common, that they do better amongst the Rust Belt than Beto O'Rourke. Beto O'Rourke just has the appeal to the right places. If Bernie Sanders was able to appeal to Latino voters, you could possibly flip Florida, Arizona, sorry, I don't know what's happening to my voice, Arizona, Florida, and possibly Texas. Joe Biden, same thing. But Beto O'Rourke is able to bring out voters in Arizona, a state that has shown that it will vote for a Democrat in a statewide election. Florida, which has narrowed down, but not exactly full on for the Democratic Party. And then Texas, which has narrowed down, still not full on for the GOP either. Beto O'Rourke, I really just think, is able to appeal to the right people in the right places. But again, looking at those margins, that's what's important for comparing candidates. These stronger candidates, the ones that will have more room to lose or gain a couple of voters, Beto O'Rourke does not have that. This is the election as it stands today. If he does one thing wrong, assuming he runs and becomes a nominee, he'll probably lose voters in Pennsylvania. Less than 1% is not a lot, which is exactly why these 3 Rust Belt states are very contested, because of the fact that Donald Trump won these by less than 1%. Any little thing Donald Trump has done since he won these states has put him behind the next Democrat that's coming up to the plate to run in 2020. And if we're looking at these, again, the margins are very important. So when you say that Bernie Sanders did not do as good as Beto O'Rourke, looking at the margins, he did do better. He has a lot more of safety in a number of these states that Beto O'Rourke does not have and cannot afford to lose some of these states, whereas Bernie Sanders may be able to knock down possibly even 5 percentage points in some Rust Belt states and still win the state itself. So that wraps up today's video. Thank you guys for watching this video. Comment down suggestions below, and I'll see you all tomorrow.